Many people, Your Excellency, talk about the youth and how they can incorporate them, and they talk about the youth agenda and say, youth are our biggest asset in terms of our workforce and demographic bracket. What is your youth agenda, and what can young people expect from Professor KIBWANA's presidency?
I was fortunate to have taught for 25 years in the University of Nairobi, rising to be Dean of Faculty of Law. And actually a lot of the legal people, the senior people in the legal fraternity have been my students. And I worked easy with young people. I didn't just teach. We would make conversation, I would try to understand what they're going through and all that, be a mentor. When I started teaching, some of the students were older than me because I started teaching at 23. But we developed a good relationship. And therefore, when I got into civil society, I worked a lot with young people as well in civil society. Many of those groups like Youth Agenda, some of the first groups to really deal with youth issues, we worked with them, with Willie Mutunga and others. And even within the constitution-making process, the youth who are very central to it, we worked, very closely together. Here in Makueni, that has been one of the most critical things that we have tried to work on, because if you can provide a solution for a sustainable solution for the youth of Kenya, then that's a big part. And we know they are the majority, like about 70%, and it's not just Kenya, Africa. And a lot of us, as you have correctly pointed out, a lot of us say that we will do great things with the youth, but eventually we don't. I have told young people here, let's sit together. We have, for example, done a census of how many are 18 to 35, what they do, their educational background. We have done all that. So that we are able now to say that these are the interventions that are necessary so that we are targeting what must be done, and we are not just shooting in the dark, as it were. For example, we work very well with our border in terms of supporting them to seed money, to buy bikes, we have conversation with the police. We train them through NITA so that they have licenses. We encourage them to also have insurance. We help them also with some of the helmets. They have formed a cooperative. They have a cooperative in each ward, 30 wards. Some of them are even transiting into buying like lorries. So that's something that, we have done so that they graduate. They went to Kitengela and they saw how border people in Kitengela are building high rises. So that's one thing that, we are doing with the youth. Even in terms of the Kazi for Mitaani, Kazi Mtaani, we have our own version of Ajira for Vijana. We are, as of now, we are even paying more. When Konza is happening, we are a player in Konza. This young national government was paying initially a player in the pilot Konza. Of course, I've not talked about the sports, because that's an important aspect. We have not also talked about young people involved. TVETs will themselves tell us what we are even saying that to do, so that we don't just have them in manual work. We want to have them to come together, and they actually so that they can form companies, so that they can do AGPO, because that's a very important thing for us, making sure that young people are doing AGPO, business with government, the 30%, but they're not proxies. It's their work, helping them with pro forma, so that they can be helped by banks, and we can tell banks, when you help them, we'll pay you first, and then we'll give them the rest of the money. For each project in Makueni, we try to have apprentices so that young people, again, if it's agriculture, somebody who has done agriculture, you know, if it is a health thing, so that those young people journey with that project and they get practical information, apart from the usual internship project that we have. So we are very intentional. And I think, like the National Youth Council, that's something that should be made to work better. Because even here, the university students have their own organization. They are also doing their things, helping, peer mentoring, and so on. And when they ask us for support, we support. So it is my belief that one must really have an agenda for young people which is driven by the young people themselves. You don't impose as government and tell them that this is what...
This election coming up in 2022 seems to be one that has brought out an interesting aspect of faith.
Yes.
There are people who talk about, you know, we have God, and others are, you know, I don't know. But you personally,
Yes.
What is your faith, and how important is your faith in you know, giving you the navigational values that you have in your governance?
If one looks at the two predominant faiths in this country, that is the Christian faith and the Islamic faith, within the holy books in those faiths, leadership must be based on godly principles. Therefore, it is important that part of what must define you as a leader is subscribing to your given faith. And you do this in an honest way, because you can cheat human beings, you can't cheat God. And I think those who are driven by faith in their leadership can be true servant leaders. I believe that. And actually, before going to Makueni to become a governor 2013, I had myself decided to go to theology school, and for 3.5 years, from 2009 to 2013 to 2012, sorry, I went to Africa International University, then called next for a master's in theological studies. Right. And I was doing that first and foremost for my own personal reasons, because I wanted to understand my faith more deeply, because as a father, I am the head of the family, I'm the pastoral head of the family. Yeah. And two, I also knew that if you root your leadership on these principles, it is likely to be better. So I hope whoever it is that Kenyans are considering for leadership going forward, there has to be a demonstration that that element of faith is embraced by them. Because when that happens, those leaders are afraid of doing wrong things because they have a master whom they are accountable to ultimately.
Right. We are completely running out of time, but I need to ask this before we close this interview. You are a guru of the Constitution, so to speak. From your considered opinion, do you feel like we will be able to have a referendum before 2022? And should we have one, do you feel like, you know, is there something we need to change? And if so, is it possible given the timelines?
I think the problem that one has is this has become a contested thing. There's push and pull. Initially, it didn't start that way. It looked like we were building bridges to a better situation. Of course, at Bomas, we had agreed that there would be a constitution on the basis of what people had agreed on, but subsequently there were changes.
Right. Let me just jump in there and just ask on Bomas real quick before you continue, Your Excellency. What is this we keep hearing, Bomas? We also what happened at Bomas. But what was the real parting force at Bomas that caused us not to have that draft?
From when the civil society began the push for the constitution, because truth be told, it was civil society which began the initial push for the constitution. The politicians had pushed for, those in the opposition, had pushed for a return to multi-party politics. But the civil society said, a return to multi-party politics is not enough without a new constitution. And the civil society thought that the moment you have a new constitution, people will implement it, because the constitution is the mother law. It is the fundamental law. In legal parlance, we say it's the grundnorm. But now, when we developed the constitution to a very good place, at Bomas, even at Bomas, there are contestations about the content of the constitution. But that now constitution, when the Bomas passed it, and it went now to other processes through parliament and so on, it got changed. And so ultimately, we were told, you must accept this, let us accept the 2010 constitution, whatever else, it's 80%. We will change the 20%. And people like the religious sector had their own issues of a religious nature, and they deferred. You know, they said, we'll change at some point the 20%. I am not sure whether now we are changing the 20%, we are adding the 20%, or we are adding another percent. I am not sure, because also the final Bomas, the final BBI has not come out. So one must wait for the final BBI so that one can really say, is the change that is being proposed change that is going to solve all the problems that I have talked about? Will it solve the corruption? Will it solve the economy? Will it solve the youth inclusion? Will it solve, all those issues? I think that is very, very important. And to what extent will Kenyans now be told, this is the document, debate it, and for real, so that you can own it, you can say yes, or you can say no, without coercion. I think for somebody who actually spent a lot of their life in pursuit of this new constitution, before it is changed, I need to be convinced personally that it is being changed because Wanjiku has said, change it for me. Change it so that it can help me. Wanjiku, Chebet, Mweni, all those guys. All those, Odhiambo, all of them.
And not just for my interest as a...
Yeah, so that truly, because if it's a good thing, then our leaders should be able to sit down with us and tell us it's a good thing, and if we say it's not a good thing, they should be happy because the citizens have said it's not a good thing and it's for the citizens. If it is a good thing and we say yes, the leader should say we are very happy, you know. So I think one important thing for me will be to what extent are the people exposed to a genuine dialogue on BBI. Because it's not enough for one person to go to the people and say, this is good, you are from my tribe, let us accept it. The other one says, this is not good, you are from my tribe, let us reject it. We must have a genuine conversation. And then we also, something that we have not done, is to take stock of to what extent we implemented this constitution, the 2010 constitution, to what extent, all those rights, it has, how much have we implemented them? The devolution, how much have we implemented it? So that there is an honest conversation and people are not simply saying, this is something that you must accept. The 2010 constitution, it couldn't have passed before Honorable Raila accepted it. he accepted it. Actually, President Kenyatta and Deputy Ruto co-chaired the parliamentary committee which ultimately gave us the constitution that there is. So Raila accepted it, and actually Ruto was in that committee on behalf of Raila. And Uhuru Kenyatta, our president, was in that committee on behalf of Mwai Kibaki, former president. Mwai Kibaki, my friend, my mentor. So, you get confused because, at some point something is agreed. 10 years later, we are told that now there is need to really change it.
And that's before an election.
Yes. And you see, if the problem has been there is, every time there is an election, people fight. So you need to change the constitution so that there are more seats, so that they don't have to fight anymore. The issue is, why don't we make our electoral process democratic? Why don't we have the institutions of elections so accountable and not institutions that we manipulate? Because since we have 7 ethnic groups, even if you were to include 5, others will say you have not included us. We want now to secede. We are being dominated. So I think let's sort out, as we think about changing the constitution, because yes, there are certain things that in a good environment I would myself want changed. In a good environment, I would want a change to make gender, at least 1/3 of the gender, to be accommodated in elective and appointive positions. That is a good thing. I would, like the bodies that fight corruption to be in the constitution, not to be in ordinary legislation, so that they have independence, But this has to be done by, I think, making all our people have a process, like the process of changing the, getting to the 2010 Constitution. That process, there was first of all a discussion about how shall we change our Constitution? How shall we make sure that everybody has an opportunity to say, this is my say, this is how I would like this Constitution changed. We had that. And from when WACO started it, we was asked by President Moi, former President Moi, to begin this process. There was a law, and we kept on changing the process law so that it accommodates people in terms of that process. Strictly speaking, BBI did not have that legal mechanism whatsoever. It had the handshake mechanism. So, as somebody really who kind of committed most of their adult life in this constitution-making thing, in the NGO thing, in NCC thing, I think our leadership should at least ensure that when this BBI report comes out, there is a thorough discussion of it. And if it is not possible to, because it would be a tragedy if constitutional change is brought and defeated, like in 2005. That can really bring a lot of problems in our country. So it's a heavy matter. It is a heavy matter. But for us as governors, we have agreed that when the BBI report comes, we shall discuss it together, the way we discuss our things, and we'll be able to tell Kenyans what we think as a group, not as KIBWANA individually, but as a group. We will be able to say, this is what we think, because we are custodians of devolution. And for us, it's important to see how is devolution accommodated and other issues in any changes. And by the way, even now, if Parliament wants, Parliament, the Treasury, the national executive, they can make the devolution money which comes to us more than 15%. Because in the Constitution, 15% is the floor, it's the minimum. So you don't have to change the Constitution to bring more money to devolution. You can actually do it right away. And I wish it happened. I wish that's what Senate is discussing.
That was the interview with Professor KIBWANA, the governor of Makueni County, county number 17. From right here in Water in Makueni, we say good night, God bless you, take care of yourselves and each other. See you next week.